Boom, we are live. Welcome back to Mount MoGraph in Summit 35. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you this effect I'm going to call an LED Morph effect, and it's somewhere between a military effect and a dance party effect, or, it could really go both ways. So anyway, let me play this for you, and I'll do a little bit more explaining, and then we'll go and make this. So as you can see, this was, it looks kind of cool. Actually, all the pixels that you see, like all these green dots, will form itself to the next letter. It's kind of hard to tell because there's so much crap going on in this one, but I think it's a kind of cool effect, and it's a lot of fun, and there's a ton of other stuff you can do with this effect. As an added bonus, I'll also show you how to make this, use the same effect with only one export and make a fancy 90s ghost text. So here's just another quick example I made that is actually kind of junky, but I don't know, just kind of wobbly. I thought it was an interesting way to do it. So anyway, let's jump into Cinema 4D and get this started. So let's go into our MoGraph module and grab a Mo text. Go into our attributes over here, and I'm going to change my depth to 1 to start. And then for the text, I think I'm going to actually do GI Joe would be kind of cool. So I'm going to do GI, and that looks great, and I'm probably going to change my line to middle just so it's nice and centered. And in my font, I found a really cool font called Avenger or something like that. A Heroic Avenger right here. So if I can find it, I'll put it up as a free download in the video description, and if I can't find it, you might have to do some searching, but I hope I can find it for you guys. So anyway, in your type, let's change it to a quadrangles and click it to regular grid. And this is the power, or really the trick I found to get this animation to look kind of cool. So I'm going to turn my width to 5 here, and we have just nice segments of everything, and that looks good. So I'm going to duplicate this text here, go into my object on this one, and just change it to Joe. So we'll do like a G.I. Joe text, and that looks great. So I'm going to grab this first text and press C to make it editable, right click, select children, C to make that editable, right click, select children, right click, connect objects and delete. So we have an editable object that is our GI, so just call this GI, and then on our second one we'll do C, right click, select children, C, right click, select children, right click, connect objects and delete, and I'm going to call this one Joe. So we are actually almost set up for this effect. So now let's hide these. Now that we've made something, let's get rid of it. Anyway, so now what we're going to do is go into our MoGraph module and grab a cloner. So I'm sure you guys have played around with a cloner, and you can set it to object mode and put clones on an object. For us, we're going to be using that trick to align it to our G.I. Joe text. So I'm going to go and create a plane here and just set my orientation to +Z so it's facing us, and turn my width segments to 1 and my height segments to 1. Additionally, go to my width and height and set those to 1. So at this point, if you don't have a crazy nice computer, I recommend going into your options here and going to your level of detail and setting it to low. This won't affect your render, but it will affect what your screen looks like. So drop your plane into your cloner. And then in your cloner, under your object type, let's drop our GI into our object. So as you can see, it puts all these planes onto the vertices of our G.I. Joe. So when I do it, obviously it's set on low, so it only does half of them. But if I turn mine up to high just for a second, it's gonna look way better. So now we have a GI in there, and obviously you can spend more time and populate it a little bit better, but I'm going to turn mine back down to low just because I am recording a video at the same time. So anyway, we have that set up. Let's go into our second effect and duplicate our cloner here. And what we're going to do is just drop our Joe into our object for the second clone. So I'm going to call this first clone 1 and the second one 2. And then on your second cloner, we're going to hold Alt and double click your traffic signals to hide it. And so we just have this GI sitting on the screen, and it'll be more filled in when we do our render. So now what I'm going to do is go into my MoGraph module and grab an effector. And if you guys haven't used the Inheritance, it is awesome. So I recommend using it. So I'm just going to set it to Inheritance and make sure it is actually put onto this cloner. So in your Effectors tab, mine did not get added. I'm going to drop my Inheritance tag onto there. And now what we're going to do is click your Inheritance tag and go to your Effector. And we're going to set our Inheritance mode to direct, and our object, we're going to drop in our second cloner. So nothing's going to happen right off the bat, but if we switch this Morph Motion object on, we are now going to be able to morph between our two, whatever you call these guys, our two words or letters. Man, I was blanking there. Let me make sure this is working all right. We might have to switch something. So this is what it's looking like so far. And this is actually based off how many vertices we put into our GI and our Joe. So I think I set mine to 5. I actually recommend probably turning yours down a little bit more than that, because this doesn't look great. So yeah, do that. Let's see. But yeah, so this is already looking kind of cool. And we're going to make it look a little bit better. What I'm first going to do is actually, in my object clone for this first one, I'm going to drop Joe in. And then on my second one, I'm going to drop the GI in. And the reason I'm going to do this is because the Inheritance Effector starts with however many clones, like however many clones you have are going to go to the next one. So since this has more clones to work with, it's going to actually populate all of them. So this already looks a lot better. And then when it goes to the GI, I'll have more than enough to make the GI, if that made sense. So I feel like this video is dragging, so I'm going to try to pick it up for a second here. Let's go over into our fall off tab and go to our shape and set it to a linear. And so what this is going to do, if I rotate around the scene, is now give us a way to animate a certain direction of our Inheritance Effector. So if I press E for the move tool, I'll actually be able to slide this through my text. Oh, I got to set my inheritance. Make sure your effector is set to 100% strength. So as my Inheritance Effector is now passing through my my letters here, the change is happening. So that looks cool. And now what I'm going to do is actually go into my fall off and change my size Y down a bit, because no, my size Z, I think. Yep, that's what I wanted, the Z. So change your Z down just so it's less of a fall off, and just pull it down to the bottom. So whatever you're going to want to start this effect on. And I'm going to go over to the beginning here and just set a keyframe for my Inheritance Effector. I think my display, did I put it? Yeah, I put it on high. That's why. So yeah, it slows down anyone's computer, certainly when you're doing this. So then I'm going to go over to about 1.6 seconds and just drag my Inheritance Effector up to the top. Once it's all the way through Joe and we can see it change on the screen, that looks cool. And I'll set a keyframe. And now when I play this back, it's going to transition very nicely. And you can also play around with a fall off if you want to go linear from another direction, or you want to like scale up a sphere so it comes from the middle like a ripple. There's a ton you can do with this. So let's just create a quick material. I'm going to go into my material and change my color and my specular to 0, go into my luminance, and I'm just going to make a really bright neon green, and we're just going to drop this onto both of our cloners here. So that looks good. And that's basically it. Now you are going to be able to, like, if you want to animate a camera moving around this, you certainly can. I don't know if I really want to for the purposes of this video. It's just to give you guys some ideas. So I'll keep it basic. But if you go into your cameras here and just set it to front, that's what I'm going to do, just so I have it nice and centered and flat and it looks cool. So I like this. And a way that you guys should start using Cinema 4D, if you don't, at least that I would recommend, is to use it like you would use it Photoshop if you're taking a picture, you know? Like, don't worry about getting something that looks perfect inside of Cinema, because there's so many, like, that's the whole purpose of a compositing program like After Effects. So I recommend doing something like that. Yeah, because I mean, we could like duplicate these layers for all our different colors and stagger it in our keyframes, or we could just do one basic render and do all our changes inside of After Effects. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to set my my save options up real quick. Make sure you select alpha channel here, And that looks good. That looks good. Change that to 2.133 to correspond to that frame, because we don't need the whole animation. So it's only going to render 63 frames. Go to my save options, and I'm of course just going to pick my desktop, and I'll call this LED, a folder for LED. And also always render out in image sequences if you can, because then you can like start the render if you need to use your computer for something else any other time. It's like being able to pick up where you left off. And then I'm going to call this one LED as well. And then I'll just start this render, and it should go super quick. I'm not even going to save this. So yeah, I'll render to my picture viewer, and as you can see, it's going to render quick, and all the pixels are in there, even though they weren't in here, just because that's what our render settings were set like. And this will look way better once we get it over into After Effects. It already looks kind of cool. I don't know. I think it's a fun effect at the very least. You know, it's a little different, but seem to turn out kind of cool. So yeah, I hope you guys are having fun with the video so far, and not getting too bored. Oh dang, man, it feels like when I'm talking I feel like I'm just dragging, but I guess that's not horrible. So we should be to the cool stuff in just a second. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Alright, so we got our render. It's just a basic color channel with an alpha, and that's perfect for us. So we'll go over into After Effects and just do Command-I to import. Select our LED and make sure it's a TIFF sequence or whatever sequences you rendered, or even your .mov if you chose to render out like that. So I'm going to click open, straight, unmatted, okay, and drop this into my After Effects here. And there we go. We have our wonderful little G.I. Joe transition, and that looks all right. So I think what we can do now, yeah, this one didn't work perfectly actually. I went a little goofy, but you guys get the idea. You might have to play around to get the look you want. But yeah, this is looking all right. So what I'm going to do, yeah, it's weird that it like built up from the bottom again. Definitely some stuff could be tweaked. But anyway, let's go into our glow settings here, and just grab a glow from Stylize and drop that onto our LED real quick. And that's going to brighten stuff up. So I'm going to change my glow colors to A and B. Click my color A and change this also to like a bright yellow or bright neon. And do the same for my second channel. And then I'm going to really turn my glow intensity up. So we're going to get, I don't know, just an electric glow. So I turned mine to 7.1. I actually might turn this down a little bit. That's a little nuts. And that looks pretty good. So yeah, I'm going to actually cut this before, right there. So I'll just do Alt back bracket, and then do right click, trim comp to work area. And there we go. So it's already starting to look a little bit more computery and cool. And now to make this effect a little bit better, what I'm going to do is just start throwing pretty much random effects on here, and you'll get a cool look. So let's duplicate this layer here. So Command D, and we're just going to drag this to the bottom. And let's go grab a fill under our effects and presets, and drop our fill to the top of our effects here. And I'm going to change my fill color to a neon blue. And that's going to look good. And then change your color A to a blue of some kind, and your color B also to some kind of blue. And this doesn't have to be perfect. And then if you just stagger your layers a little bit like this, like just drag it over, it's going to just look like it's a delayed kind of color on everything. So I think that looks pretty cool already. Yeah, so it's starting to come together, and we can obviously turn up our glow intensity on here on our blue channel. I'll just see where it's happening, and then actually turn our glow threshold down, so it's actually going to be more electric. So as you can see, I mean, that looks pretty cool. It looks like a crazy picture. You can really start building this effect up pretty randomly and get a good effect. So now if I want to, what I can do is drop this composition into another composition, go to my effects and presets, and if you do have this, use it. If you don't have it, I'm sorry, but you can do it another way. I'm going to use this Real Smart Motion Blur, or you can just use the stock motion blur, and just turn my blur amount up. And what this is going to do is add like nice streaks behind all my stuff. So it is going to preview a little bit slower, but as you see, when these particles start coming out, it'll look cool. Now I have like kind of lines behind it, and it looks 5 times cooler. So you can also just turn on your regular motion blur if you'd like. I don't know, but this is an awesome plugin, totally worth the money if you guys feel like getting it. So yeah, so now I have a much more high-end looking animation. So yeah, that looks pretty cool to me. And you can do tons more with this. I'll go back into my regular composition, and as promised, I will show you how to make that that ghosty effect or whatever. What did I call it? Like an 80s something. So if you turn your glow intensity up a little bit more and really start cranking it, and just turn your glow threshold down and your glow radius up, you'll start to get this kind of misty look to it. So that looks kind of cool. We might even turn our glow threshold up a little bit more. So these are my settings, is 0, 79, and 6.8. So now it still looks pretty cool. And let's see, I'm actually going to drag over the second duplicate we had, and that looks good. I might actually put the second duplicate, so the blue sparks, above my second one, and just change my mode to like a multiply maybe. Something that looks cool. So now that's looking kind of cool. Yeah, and just mess around with this, obviously, and you can come up with some cool stuff. Maybe if I set this to normal and just change my my glow threshold on this one down, my glow radius up even more, my glow intensity like super high. I don't know if this is gonna look good, but yeah, I was messing around with it earlier, and man, it was looking cool. So I'll turn this down a little bit more maybe. You just got to find a good balance between what you're trying to do and also making it still legible. So I guess this doesn't really look Halloween-y, but I tried. But this is basically how I did it. Oh, I know what I did. Got to turn my intensity up. That's what I was missing. There we go. And then you start to get a bleed between all the dots. So there we go. There is your little like ghost effect. That looks pretty cool. It looks like melting or something, but this is only like the beginning. If we take it into our second composition that I had thrown that stupid motion blur onto, if we go into our effects and presets and just grab a turbulent displace, actually make a new adjustment layer. So right click new adjustment layer and drop your turbulent displacement onto your adjustment layer. Holding Alt, click your evolution and just add the expression time times 100 just to multiply it and make it move over time. And then we'll just tweak some settings here. So just find something you like. I'm going to turn my amount down a little bit and my size maybe up, and my complexity up a little bit as well. So now when I play this, it's going to kind of wave around, and it's going to preview a little bit slower now that I'm just stacking effects on effects on effects. And we might actually want to turn the amount up a little bit more for not seeing the effect so much. Yeah, it's kind of moving. Yeah, I'll probably turn this up. And then you can also slow down this footage if you want, and do even more with it. So yeah, that is how you can create some really cool, fancy stuff inside Cinema 4D and After Effects. And additionally, remember, you guys can fly a camera around the scene, and you can do tons more. Like for example, with Inheritance Effector, let me just delete these. One more quick example, and I promise this video is done. I'll keep it under 20 minutes, I hope. I'll do my best. Actually, it'll probably be 21 minutes. So anyway, if we just want to go into your attributes and let's say, or your content browser, and let's say that you have, like just some, there's some free models in that come with Cinema 4D. So if I grab like the this woman's head or something, man, that sounds gross. But yeah, if I grab this this model here and just make it editable and connect objects and then delete the clay, I now have this polygon here. And what I can do is go and grab my MoGraph cloner like we talked about, and grab a sphere, make my sphere small here, probably just too small. And then on my attributes here, I'll change this actually to 1, set my mode to object, and drop my female bust into there, and then just make that not visible. So then you can kind of make faces and junk like that. So that looks kind of cool. You can do a lot more with it. If you like select your woman here and give her more vertices. So just make polygon mode and do Command A, right click and go to subdivide, and maybe that looks better. I picked a kind of funny object to put all over her. She looks like Bumpy, which isn't a good look, but don't tell her, she'll be sad. So maybe 0.3 would be better. But yeah, so then you can use the Inheritance Effector on this as well and really start to get some cool stuff. So if I divide this one more time, I'm just going to go crazy, I guess. Let's see, subdivide. And now we're going to really start getting up in our polygon count here. I wonder if I had my display set up all the way. Oh yeah, and I also had my level of detail set to low, so that's probably why I wasn't getting the same definition. So now this is going to kill my computer. Actually, maybe it won't. Might just take a second to catch up, and then that'll be it. But yeah, I put a ton of vertices on here because I wasn't seeing stuff. But yeah, so now it looks cool, and you can do the same effect with objects. So just use your Inheritance Effector, and you'll get some really cool looking stuff. So my computer's kind of frozen. I'm just gonna wait for this to fix itself. It just probably take another second. So I'll just fill in the time so you guys can see just how cool this ends up looking. Yeah, so just one more second here. I wonder if I can click stuff yet. Not quite. Yeah, I went way too crazy with this. I'm putting like thousands and thousands of polygons in here. So maybe you guys get the idea. Maybe you don't. But I don't know what my computer is doing. It's pretty locked up right now, so that sucks. But I guess I'll stop the video on here. Now that I got the spinning ball of death, I'll just hope this at least saves the video. Thanks for checking out the channel, guys. I hope this video was kind of fun, quick. I don't know if you were bored, dislike the video, but I thought there was some kind of cool effects in there, and yeah. Hope you guys have a good start to the week. Peace out, guys, and get your learn on. And look at this floating orange lady. You're probably having a better day than she is with this rainbow on her. All right, see ya.